just want to be seen with us.
I'm going to make you stand up. I am. I'm going to make you stand up, too. Ready? Good afternoon. Thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah. Okay. We're here to discuss the proposed budget for 2023. And if anybody's here for any other purpose, well, you missed the room. You're in the wrong room. So this is about the 2023 proposed budget. I'll go through it. We'll have questions at the end. And then we will have this put online. You'll be able to send questions to me. I'll respond to your questions, and then I'll post questions and answers on the website. So we'll do that. I'll go through that some more in a little while. I'd like to introduce to you the board. Our President, Mr. Ken Flurl. John Wedgeworth, our Vice President. John, you can't hide just because you're back there. You can. Greg Jones, our Secretary. Bruce Horn, our Director at Large. Is Misty here? Misty Galloway? Not? Oh, okay. Misty's not here. And Barb Storer, who's our timeshare rep. Senior management team, I'd like for all of them to stand. I see some of them in the room. If you would please stand and be recognized. Thank you. The contributing board advisory committee, we have a major capital projects committee that is inputted into this budget. Any members of the major capital project committee, please stand up and be recognized. There's one of you. Okay. Well, it's the important one. He's the chair of the committee, so that's good. Financial Advisory Committee, would you all please stand up? Thank you. The reason I want to introduce all these folks is this process is a long, enduring process. It started months ago. There are literally hundreds of hours put into this by those folks I just went through. The way the process goes is that Bob Weber and his senior team put together a proposed budget. It goes to the FAC for discussion back and forth, and then the FAC comes to the board and discusses their view of the budget. The board reviews the budget. We've done that several iterations, trust me. And so this is not a small process. I've actually had people, when I first got this position on the board, say, you guys do that behind some closed door and it takes you like 2 days. Not true at all. We spend a lot of time on this, and all the folks I just asked to stand spend a lot of time going through this, what you're going to see today. I particularly want to thank the finance department. They take all of this and crank it out and put out reports, and then we say, no, 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 we want to change this, and they do the report again, and we say, no, 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 we want to do that, and bless their hearts, they just keep on going. And two of the ladies are in the room I want to really recognize. Angie Clanton, would you please stand for Angie? Angie's our controller. And next to her is Amy Kincaid, our Director of Finance. Not only do they have to go through all the iterations of the budget, but they have to put up with me. And that's the worst part for them. I feel bad for them. So, but I thank you both for all the things you've done over the last several weeks. Appreciate that. Okay, let's get into the budget. I'll talk first of all about the sewer operations. As you well know, I hope the sewer and the POA are two separate divisions, and the monies do not mix. So we'll go through sewer first, then I'll go through POA and amenities. Here's what this is showing is revenue that we have gotten or will be getting from sewer taps. You can see our projection in 2022 is that we will have a sewer revenue of $103,752 in taps, about $637 in safe sewer collection. Sewer collection system is what you and I, if you're on sewer, what you and I pay $30 a month for sewer. That's what the sewer collection system is. Sewer taps, that is a fee that we charge when somebody taps on to the sewer system new. Those two for this year, we look at going to total about $741,000. The budget shows that we'll get about $589,000 out of those two sources next year. When you look at the cash, we had beginning cash this year of $2 million. got capital purchases about $300,000. You add this revenue into it. Well, we're hoping to end the year in sewer with about $2.5 million of cash. And you go over in 2023, and you take that cash over, and we think we're going to have $589,000 of revenue next year. We're going to spend about $1.7 million on projects in sewer next year, and I'm going to talk about those in a minute. Then you add that 559. We hope to come up and have about $1.5 million of money left in sewer operations at the end of next year. Sewer capital. We have two more funds that we feed into. Sewer Availability Fund. That is when we run new sewer lines past a lot. They become from a C lot to become a B lot. There's a fee that we charge the lot owner for having sewer now available to them. And sewer capacity, that fund is used only for improvements down at the sewer treatment plant itself. And that fee is paid when you tie on to the sewer system, you pay a tap fee and you pay a capacity fee. Because eventually, 100 homes every year, you keep adding them, we have to increase capacity down at the sewer treatment plant to handle it. And so we're expecting about $500,000 of revenue this year, about the same next year. If you begin in capital or cash for this year, and then you have the expansion cost, then add in the revenue, we hope to end up at the end of the year about $2 million in sewer capital. Next year, our projection is we'll end up about $2.4 million in capital for next year. Sewer overview. Here's the projects. Regular capital, that's just like buying trucks, buying materials for sewer. The collection system expansion, that's that availability fee. That is, we have planned expansions throughout next year to expand sewer wherever we think development is appropriate. And so we're going to be doing project after project throughout the year. You'll see PRs presented throughout the year to put that to work. And then the big one is the Lake Catherine Force Main Redirect. It's $1.5 million. That's the first project off of the 10-year study that we had done. And this is the #1 priority project according to the contractors, the consultants we had in, and according to Bruce Evans. And if Bruce Evans tells me that's the #1 project, then it's the #1 project, trust me. So we're going to spend, you add that up, about, $1.9 million in capital next year just on sewer. So, okay. Let's talk about POA operating. POA, these are net numbers of an operation. We expect an administration to end up with about $4.9 million. Next year, we're saying it's about $4.5 million in administration. Fire department this year, between the donation that we give of $132,000 plus maintenance work on the buildings and paying taxes and that kind of thing, we'll have contributed about $138,000. Next year, we're going to give $132,000 again in cash to the fire department, and we expect a little bit more maintenance on the buildings next year. So we're estimating we'll spend about $143,000 in total on the fire department. The police department this year, it's about $1.2 million. Next year, it's $1.5 million, and that increase is due to the fact that we're going to add 4 new officers to the workforce to make sure we cover everything that needs to be covered in Fairfield Glade for the police department. Oop, I'm sorry, went wrong. Marketing and events, we have a subsidy of $230,000 this year, about $283,000 next year. Community maintenance this year is going to cost us about $3.5 million. Next year, about $3.1 million. When you add all that up, this year we think we'll end up with a minus $147,000 in operating. Next year, $464,000, and most of that is in admin and in the police department. Okay. The POA operating results. This combines amenities and POA. In the amenities, Food and beverage, we think we're going to end up with a subsidy of $324,000 in food and beverage this year. John, I keep walking off the set, and I'm sorry. Budget for next year, we're hoping that we'll only subsidize food and beverage $269,000. Golf this year is going to contribute $800,000 to the amenities. Next year, it's going to contribute $991,000. Racket sports this year, it's going to be positive $17,000. And I want to point out their budget this year was for us to subsidize them $13,000, and they're going to actually contribute $17,000. So, William, thank you very much, wherever you are. Next year, even better, we look to get $42,000 out of the racket sports. Marinas, $200,000 this year. Next year, we're projecting to get $220,000 out of marinas. And then in the center and recreation, we subsidize that. We think about $491,000 this year. It's going to be in the neighborhood of $518,000 next year. So subtotal for amenities, positive $202,000, positive next year, $465,000. And when you add that up, you get combined between the previous chart, this one, and this one, we'll end up with about $55,000 of cash at the end of the year for this year. Next year, more or less, it's a break-even budget. When we're talking numbers, we are $693,000 is a decimal point error. That's all it is. So we hope to have a balanced budget next year. When you take the beginning cash, $587,000, we have the reserve of $5.5 million, which I will talk about in a moment. You add that up, we think we'll end up at the end of the year with a little over $6 million of cash. And look, next year it's about the same. Year on year, we're going to end up with about $6 million, the majority of that being the $5.5 million of reserve, but I will discuss that in a moment. Regular capital. Regular capital is things like buying trucks, buying equipment, that kind of thing. Over here is the total. If you look, on average, we spend $1.7 million a year on regular capital. I started the FAC, I was on the FAC in 2015, and we've been spending $1.5 to $1.7 million of regular capital every year, just keeping things up to date for, like I said, trucks, equipment, that kind of thing. Golf, I'll point out that if you look at this year, it kind of went up. And if you'll recall, the reason it went up is this year we bought 2 sets of golf carts. Typically, we buy 1 set of golf carts every year. But because of the late delay in deliver carts, typically we get carts in the March-April timeframe. We were told that we're not going to get them until the 4th quarter. So we decided, well, if we're going to do that, let's go ahead and get 2 sets. And so those of you who golf know that we replaced all 150 carts at Heatherhurst this year. Typically, we do half and half. And that's why you see that little uptick. And then, of course, it came down in our projection for 23 because we're not buying any golf carts next year, right? And then Public Works stays pretty steady. And you can see it just slowly creeps up. And most of that's inflation, quite frankly, from year to year. Let's talk about master plan projects. This is POA. First one is a sense of arrival. If you've noticed, all the way up and down Peavine, we've replaced all the directional signs around the place, and we're now working on the sign at the corner of Peavine and Stonehenge. And that money here in 23 is to help finish up that project. So we'll have the new sign, and we'll take the sign that is sitting at the corner now that was there originally, and we're going to take it and move it down to St. George. And it'll be right there at St. George as you enter Fairfield Glade. Fire station number 2 paving, we hope to get that done yet this year. We redid the driveway chief into the fire number 2 station up by Dartmoor, so it'd be easier for the firemen to pull in and turn around. We did the grading and all that. We just haven't gotten it paved yet, so hope to get that paved. Renovating the fire station, $90,000 next year. That's to renovate the EMS quarters inside the fire station. So you add that up, and we're going to spend about $81,000 this year, about $100,000 next year. Master plan projects for the amenities. The Grove, we're going to put a restroom in at the Grove, permanent restroom in at the Grove versus the porta potties that are down there. And we had hoped to do that this year, but it's got drug out. And so we hope to get it started yet this year and finish it next year. If in fact we don't get it started, what we'll do is we'll carry that money over into 23 and do it before the season starts next year. That's the plan. And then 24, we just put $50,000 out there because we're always talking with the developer about what next could we do with the Grove to make it even better than it is. And so we put some money out there to work with him to improve the Grove. Robin Hood Park, this was engineering, design work plus some earthwork. Next year we're going to hope to Robin Hood Park. We have 3 projects. We've got the bocce courts. We've got a plaza between the bocce courts and the pavilion. If you all recall, we went out for bids on that last year and it was well over $1 million. We all swallowed real hard and said, no, we're not going to spend over $1 million on Robin Hood Park. So I'm going to challenge Mr. Miser there and the MCPC folks to go back and re-engineer Robin Hood Park, and hopefully we'll get the bocce courts done in 23, begin the work on the restroom and pavilion, and finish it up in 24. That's what that money is for. The biggie coming is Druid Hills. This money was for surveying and some engineering work. Next year we put $1 million in there. We hope to get started on the golf side of the project on Druid next year. May even towards the end of the year, might tear the building down, not sure just yet, but we wanted to have money available. And then 24, we'll get hot and heavy into that project, so we put $3 million in there. Heatherhurst, 19th hole, we decided to delay that, and we pushed it out to the fall of 24 into the spring of 25. So we still plan on doing that. We just don't have a definite plan yet to pull it, so we pushed it out. The marina docks are done, right, John? Yeah. The center HVAC controls. This building was built in 2008, right, Mary Jo? 2008 for this building? 7? Okay. And so what the MCPC folks did was, they looked at the control systems here, and they're antiquated if you think about electronic control systems. So we had a study done and approved, and we are now, in fact, in the middle of changing out the control systems here so we can better control the environment in the building. For instance, when these rooms are not being used, we want to shut them down and only air condition or heat them when we're in here, because one of the largest costs of this building is your utilities. And so we've got the major capital projects, folks are working on that. Those control systems will get finished, I hope, yet this year, Dave, right? Bracket Center improvements, that's the last piece of that project. That's basically landscaping to finish up. And then St. George Marina building, we put the roof on this year, and we're going to renovate the building come the end of next year when the marina closes in October. We'll renovate that building from the fall of 23 into 24. And so that's what that is for. It's one of the oldest buildings we have, and so we're going to upgrade it and renovate it. The center repurpose, what that is we talked about this building and how can we get more activity here, what can we do more to bring people in here, and so we put in some money next year to do a study to work with some folks internally here to decide what do we want to do long term with this building. So that's what that is. So when you look at it, this year we'll spend about $500,000 on these major projects. Next year we're going to spend $1.5 million on projects. And in 24, we're going to spend nearly $4 million on projects. That's important to remember when I get to the subject of the reserve, John. Okay. Projects under consideration. Beyond 24, we're looking at the Heatherhurst Bray irrigation and cart paths. That project has been sitting on our major projects list for a while, and we feel like it's getting time to take a serious look at repairing those. Racket Center addition, outdoor courts. William, I'll just say to you that we are considering that. When we see that the capacity of the current courts is exceeded, we'll talk about adding additional courts. The library building update. Again, that building is one of the older buildings on the property, and we want to go ahead and renovate it and get it upgraded, make it look a lot like what we have now, and even in the interior. So we're going to look at that. And then we talked about a new administrative welcome center for some time. We're still looking at where we want to do that, what it needs to look like, and so that's still on our project list for after '24. So the capital fund, you take the reserves of $3.5 million that we started the year with, and you take out the principal loan debt here. That was to pay off the rest of this building early this year. You've got regular capital for amenities of $900,000, regular capital POA $900,000, master projects of $500,000, master plan projects of 81 totals $2.5 million. The net change between this $3 million, you spend the $2 million, you end up with $1 million after you get all that done. Beginning cash was $1.3 million. You add in this $1 million we have left over, and we end up with capital reserves at the end of this year about $2.4 million. Now you go over to 23, and you add up what I just went through of by the way, I have to point out, there's no long-term debt next year. We are debt-free, which feels really good to me because of where we're headed. Regular capital, $760,000. Regular capital POA, $810,000. The master plan projects, that's the $1.5 million that I just discussed a little while ago. That includes the start of Druid. And then master plan projects of $100,000 for $3.2 million. You take that away from the 3.7, and you only have about $480,000 left over after you do that. But we got beginning cash reserves of 2.4, you add the 4.5. So we end up next year, we hope, at the end of the year with about $2.9 million of capital reserves. Okay. Talk about the elephant in the room. People ask me over and over, you got all this money, what are you going to do with it? Well, here's what we're going to do with it. First of all, we're going to do the Druid Hills project with it. Right, Greg? And somebody asked at the annual meeting about our reserves and how much do we think we needed in operating reserves. We're going to do a reserve study in 2023. But what Amy and I decided to do was let's go ahead and use 10% of fixed assets, which is a fair number, John, of what we think that reserve is going to be required. And if you take 10% of our net assets, that's $3.7 million. We believe that reserve study is going to tell us you're going to need $3 to $4 million of reserves in operations. And then you got, the other thing is, when I looked at the 24, our capital reserves actually go negative in 24, meaning that if our plan works out the way we have it laid out, we'll have to go borrow some money in 24 to do capital. And so if we maintain that capital reserve, which we intend to do. So that is where that $5.5 million is at. Most of it's going to be in that capital reserve number. Okay, get into some things I'm sure you're interested in. Amenity fee increases. The amenity fees in general will increase across the board in the range of 8 to 10% per activity. Golf, racket sports, marinas, even mini golf, all that. Inflation accounts for 8% of that. Labor increases count for 9% of that, and benefit increases are going up 10%. So when you put all that together, we're going to need to raise amenity fees. POA and amenity increase explanation. What do you think the largest expenses we have here? Labor. We're a service organization. Labor is our biggest expense. Well, our labor wage increase is going to be over $1.3 million next year. Our payroll tax and benefits going to be over almost $600,000. Between those two, you're talking about 1.9, almost $2 million purely in labor expense here at Fairfield Glade. And I might point out that we're going to have wage increases for all employees, including the seasonal employees. We're raising the seasonal employees' wages $1 an hour. Sid. Okay, here's the breakdown. This is just the wages. We're going to give all of our employees a 6% cost of living increase. All of you know what cost of living is doing. You go to the grocery store, go to the gas, wherever you go. And so we're going to give all of our employees a 6% increase in cost of living, and then a merit increase to those who have performed well of 1.5%. So that's 7.5% wage increase. That's where that $1.3 million comes from. Trying to take care of our employees, for me, it's a balance between taking care of employees, make sure we take care of our employees, and not overspending as we go. And we think last year we gave the employees a 5.9% COLA increase. This year it's going to be a 6%. But again, you look year on year, as you well know, prices are going up. So now one of the things I want to show, we talk a lot about amenities paying for themselves from an operating standpoint. What this chart is showing is I put in 2021, 2022 projected, and 23 budget. The red is the revenue we get from the amenity fees. The blue is what we get from assessments, what you and I pay every month as an assessment. The total is the operating revenue. That's the two sources of income we have for paying operations in the POA. It's amenity fees and it's assessments. Well, if you look at that, each year the amenities pay for a little more and a little more. And here's some numbers. For 2023, the amenity revenue is going to be $11.6 million. The expenses are $11.1. The amenities will actually be positive $465,000 next year on operations. On POA, the revenue is 9.9. The expenses are 10.4. They're going to be negative $464,000. Add those two together, and you get that break-even budget number. And so what we've asked the amenities to do is not only pay for your operating costs, but help us pay for some of the overhead. And that's what this number right here shows. They are contributing almost $500,000 to help pay for the overhead at Fairfield Glade as well. So we're trying not to put all that on the residents in an assessment. We're trying to put a lot of that on those of us, including myself, who use the amenities. If you don't use it, you're not paying it. So that's the whole philosophy of this chart. But again, you can see each year the amenities contribute more and more to the overall expense of operations at Fairfield Glade. Okay, here's the one that you probably don't like. Assessments are going to go up on A lots, $3 a month. And then B lots are 85% of that, so B lots are going up $2.55, and C lots are going up $1.95. And again, most of that is to help compensate for, remember what the labor number was, 1.3 million? Well, $1, get the number right here, $1 of assessments, or I'm sorry, I'll get to it. $3 of assessments equates to, get the right number, 300 and, remind me, maybe 300, 315, 300 and some $1,000. We had wage increases of 1.3. The assessment here is only going to pay for about a little over 300,000 of that. So we're making it up through amenity fees, but also reduction in our cost to run Fairfield Glade. The other thing that's going to go up is the sanitation is going to go from $8 to $9. A few years ago, we raised sanitation $1, and we take that dollar and we put it in a reserve so that the next time we need a sanitation truck, we have the money to buy it. But we looked at it and said, we really haven't raised the fee for sanitation in years. And I'm talking before I ever came here, years. And so we're going to raise sanitation fees $1 because our sanitation operating costs have gone up. So between those two, your monthly fee is going to go up $4, is the bottom line. Okay, where's it go? This is the $73 a month total that you're going to pay, and this includes capital. And so what you see here is a big chunk of this is golf. And that's because it's operating, and it's the $1 million that we're going to put into Druid Hills. That's why their piece of the pie went up. You can go around. The other big piece is the general administrative expenses. Again, amenities are helping to cover some of that cost through their amenity revenue. Center and recreation is a big piece. Community maintenance, that's roads, bridges, all the common areas, that kind of thing. Enhanced services, that includes the road paving, it includes the police department, and it includes the fire department. I termed it that a couple years ago, saying those are enhanced services that we want up over and above what the county provides to us. So that's where all those, the $73 gets allocated this year. F&B, $6.40 of your $73 to support food and beverage. We have some other fees that are going to increase. We have an administrative fee for sending out the assessment bills and for handling checks. It costs us money to handle checks. It costs us money to send out paper bills. And so that cost has gone up, so we're raising that fee to $2.50. The sewer availability fee, again, that's the fee we charge for people when a sewer goes by their lot that they don't have sewer. We charge them that fee for the availability. We raised that fee by the engineering news record construction cost. And so it went up $108. So next year, when we run sewer lines, those who own a lot will pay us $2,053 to have the availability of sewer. Amenity reserve fee, again, we raised that by the engineering news record construction index. What that is that's the fee you pay when you buy a home here. And we take that fee and we stick it into a reserve account, and it helps pay for all the upgrade and improved amenities we have. It'll help pay for Druid cost. It helped pay for the Racket Center improvements. That went up $60, so when you buy a home here now, you pay $1,150. That goes into the amenity reserve fee. And that can only be used to improve or build new amenities. That's all it can be used for. Okay, that's a lot of information in a short period of time. Okay, but I'll say this. We're going to, I'll take questions in a moment, but there's my email. And again, I want you to, this slideshow will be out on the website along with the video. And along with out there will be the amenity fee schedule as well. If you're interested in seeing how much golf went up, how much racket sports went up, how much marinas went up, that'll be out there as well. Take a look at all that. When you have questions, email me. And what I will do is I will answer your question, and then I will tabulate questions anonymously. I will not put your name on the questions, I promise. And I will answer the questions, and then weekly I will post those questions and answers on the website for everybody to see, so that everybody keeps up with this. Now I have a deadline. I want you to send me your questions by December 12th. And the reason I want it by December 12th is on December 14th, the board will meet in executive session, and I will give them the feedback that you have given us. And we will discuss what, if any, changes we want to make to this proposed budget. And we'll make that decision on Wednesday the 14th. We will come into public session on December 15th, and I will go through the feedback again in public and then tell you what changes we have made to this proposal that you're looking at, and then we will vote on that budget on December 15th. So that's it. Okay, so I will take any questions anybody has on the proposed budget. Go to the microphone, state your name, ask your question. Wow, I must have done really well. Oh, wait. Here's a question. Yes, sir.
the fire department appears to be the proverbial...
I'm sorry, could you give me your name first, please?
I'm sorry?
Your name?
My name is Charlie Larkin.
Okay, thank you.
The fire department appears to be the proverbial stepchild when it comes to the agencies and entities that you fund. I'm a big supporter of law enforcement, but I'm also a big supporter of fire protection. And the figures that I see up there for the fire department don't seem appropriate. That agency is incredibly underfunded. They have to have several fundraisers every year. They beg for donations. Everybody knows they need a new fire engine. I live about a quarter of a mile from the house that the former police chief lived in that burned a while back. The house next to it had damage as well. Fire department was there in 5 minutes and was fortunate that they were there that quickly because it could have been a lot worse. 42 years ago, almost to this day, I lost a home in a California wildfire. Recovering from that at age 30 is a lot different than recovering from it at age 72, financially, emotionally, and every other way. This area here could be Gatlinburg in a heartbeat. So I think my comment is that you sharpen your pencils again and consider adequate funding for the fire department. Thank you.
Any questions? Oh, I knew you couldn't do it, Tom, without asking a question.
I didn't want to disappoint you.
You could have. I'd have been okay with that. Go ahead.
No, I'm not going to ask the question about why you didn't provide it ahead of time. You made a decision. You're king.
Thank you.
So Bruce, when you go back to the slide, and forgive me, I couldn't
That's okay.
see down there, but when you start doing the forecast for POA and amenities combined,
Okay.
2022, 2023, and I know we're asking 2000 and there
That
we
one?
go. Yep, that one.
Okay.
So I know we are talking about 2023. I ask you to take and just bear with me so I can,
Are you
Give you
going to
some
ask a
background.
question eventually, I hope?
yeah,
Okay.
so I can get some background so I understand what we're doing. In 2020, dues were increased, and we started the year with a budget of $365,000, thereabouts. And as the year went along, and then we come to the annualized budget meeting, this meeting, all of a sudden the annualized number now is $1,096,000. So it's moving. And what I'm trying to do, because I saw it for 2020, saw it for 2021, I'm seeing it, I believe, for 2022, this moving target. So it feels like to me that we have a budget that seems to be very, very conservative. We exceed it, and it's a combination that we used the budget to justify dues increase in the past, maybe not the capital. And then we have this excess because we surpassed that budget, and so we move it into a reserve. That's the way it feels. If I'm wrong, tell me I'm wrong. So that number for 2023 of $693, basically break even.
Yes,
That's what we're going to finish next year at.
that's our expectation.
Okay. 2022 budget there.
Yeah, our expectation when I stood here last year was loss of $500,000.
Correct. And so we're $600,000 above it. is what you're telling me.
That's correct.
And in 2021,
There should be a question in here for you, so I'll ask it. How did that happen? Well, I'll tell you how it happened. We had numerous positions that we were going to fill all year, and because we just could not find qualified candidates, we did not fill those positions. That's why you see, if I get the right slide, that's why you see admin projected this year is 4.9 million, next year it's $400,000 less, because our hope is that we are going to fill all those positions. And so how did we do this? We did that not because we couldn't find the people to fill the holes.
thank you. That helps for 2022. But
Okay.
again, I go back to 2021, 2020, where the differences were bigger and the dues increase.
I understand. What was the dues increase this year?
Dues increase this year was nothing.
Thank you.
But Bruce, it was $4 on top of when it was raised last
And
time.
I understand that, but Tom, I'll say to you that we took that excess cash, and instead of just saying, well, hell, we got all this money, let's spend it, we didn't. We put it in a reserve. And I'm really glad we did, because we have wanted an operating reserve ever since I was in Phil's position as chair of the FAC. We have been pushing and pushing to get a reserve so that we don't have to worry about Dorchester 10 years from now being in disarray. We'll keep it up as we go. That's the whole idea. And so what we decided to do was take that excess cash, stick it in a reserve. And again, I'm glad we did, because I think at least half of that's going to be the reserve, and the other half we're going to need more than that to do the Druid project. So personally, I'm glad we did that, rather than not having dues increases and me stand here this year and tell you, oh, I'm sorry, but we're going to raise your assessments $15. I think that's a better answer.
Thank you for your answer.
You don't want to ask the question, so I'm trying to ask your question for you.
Isn't this questions and comments? When do you get the feedback? You only do that through email?
Yep, if you have a question, I'll answer your question now, but you haven't asked a question yet.
Okay. So let's talk about the other piece, which is the revenue piece. The board came out and said you looked at every revenue stream. What was the conversation, and where do we stand with some form of amenities fee for the timeshare?
The timeshare pay twice the assessments that we pay. They contribute, if you looked at the last food and beverage sheet, I think they contribute 27% of all revenue for food and beverage. They contribute, I forget what the number is for marinas, but it's almost half of the revenue in marinas for amenities. They contribute, for recreation, they contribute a lot of revenue. So that's what we get from the timeshares, being here. Like I said, not only the revenue from amenities, but they pay twice the assessments that we pay. So when I say we're raising assessments $3, theirs has gone up $6.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? Yes.
My name is Beth Jones, and this is really minuscule compared to what you are all talking about. But as far as the administration fee is concerned, if I recall correctly, a few years ago, I would get my bill by email, and I did not have to pay the administration fee.
Okay.
And then, still getting it by email, then they started to tack on the administration fee again. Why is there no way we can get them by email and not have to pay that, so you're not sending me a paper bill?
I get my bill by email. I don't get a paper bill.
Do you have to pay an administration fee?
No.
Well, they started charging it again. I mean, I'm happy to get it by email if I don't have to pay the stupid administration fee.
I'm sorry, Amy. Say it again. Oh, okay. Yeah, it's how you pay. If you pay, I get a bill electronically and I have it automatically withdrawn from my checking account.
What if I bring cash down to the place and pay it?
You still pay it. Unless you have it drawn automatically out of your account, you'll pay the administration fee.
Okay, you're telling me that you have to pay to process a check, and you're telling me if I bring you cash, you're still gonna,
Well, we have to take that to the bank. We have to
oh
process
gee,
that.
I'm sorry, somebody has to drive to the bank.
It takes labor to do that. Mine just goes straight on through the system.
Yeah, and the world's coming to that, and look at all the scams that are going out there, and
I understand.
people are getting stolen because you're doing that kind of thing automatically from your checking account.
Right, I understand. But that's why you pay the fee, is you don't do an automatic bank draft. Yes, sir.
Eric Duncan, one of the slides you had, you mentioned that we're going to be looking at new pickleball courts in 2024. Could you provide a little more detail on what that really means when you're looking at that? Right.
Right there?
Yes. What is
Yeah.
under consideration? What does that mean under consideration?
Well, what we've had a couple of presentations from the Racket Center Committee about the need for outdoor courts. And what we've said to them is, show us the capacity where the courts are being utilized. We'll look at adding capacity to the courts, either tennis or pickleball. Quite frankly, pickleball is growing a lot quicker than tennis is. And so I see somewhere down the road, we're going to need new pickleball courts. It's a matter of timing.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Other questions? All right, please send me your questions. I will answer them, and I will post the answers on the website. Thank you for coming.